My last video, I told you about how I made $14,000 in 2024 and $25,000 in just over a year sports betting. And as a matter of fact, this is how much I made just yesterday sports betting. So the proof continues to build upon itself. So I'm going to get into detail on OddsJam, my results, and the pros and cons of OddsJam. But if I don't answer all your questions, I'm going to do an entirely different video doing a Q&A on any of your questions. So please leave any questions you have down in the comments below, and I'm going to touch on them in further detail if I possibly can. And I want to explain this as simply as possible because I'm just like many of you. I was an average sports bettor, betting since it became legal in Virginia, making or actually losing money over the long run. And then I eventually gave up on it and was like, nope, I'm not going to lose any more money. But then I eventually came back to it and said, okay, how can I do this in the best possible way? And I was on YouTube trying to learn betting strategies, how to bet like a smart, sharp bettor instead of just, going off my feel so that I could actually make money on this in the long run. So yeah, let's get straight into OddsJam and let's talk about it. Well, this is a tool where I make 90% of my bets. I've used tools like OddsShopper as well, and their positive EV tool, but ultimately I failed back on OddsJam as that's been the better option for me. So just to look at the site real quick, I mean, it has several features to it. It has a feature where you can find promos. So if you were to list or sign up for a book for the first time, it will tell you all the promos that those books are offering, as well as a feature that will help you convert those promos and help you get the most bang for your buck. The positive EV tool is what I'll be focusing all of this video on. We'll come back to that. Arbitrage, which is basically betting both sides of the line to ensure yourself a guaranteed profit. I do not bet using arbitrage, so I'm not going to get into it. It has a bet tracker, whereas as you can see, I use Pickett for my bet tracking. You can also use your bet tracking in here. I stopped doing it because it became essentially a little taxing to continue to use the bet tracker up here instead of the automatic bet tracker on Pickett. A couple other features that it has a sportsbook screen where I don't pay for this option, but it has a feature where you can kind of look at all the lines and compare them to each other. So if you wanted to, for example, find bets yourself, you can basically find which sportsbook is offering that and go and bet on it directly, or find the sportsbook that's offering the most money on it and go bet on that directly. And lastly, they have a middles bet, which allows you to vote on both sides of the line like arbitrage betting, but in this case it's a possibility that you will hit both sides of the line. Low hold, I don't know too much about that, so I'm not going to touch on it. And then it has a parlay builder, so if you're a parlay type person and you want to get into it, where this is a feature for you, it'll kind of find parlays that are very favorable in your odds compared to the line. So boom, that's all the features that OddsJam have. Let's dig into the primary feature that I use. So when you get to the positive EV tool, you see a lot of numbers. And as you can see, it already has a lot of profitable bets up here that you can look at. So what you see in the main column, which is sorted by, is how much return on investment or positive EV. If I can break down positive EV for a second, is basically when the odds that they're giving you are better than the price you would get if the odds were fair, essentially, if I'm explaining that in the best way. So basically you're getting better odds than the probability of the bet hitting. Looking at this, it has your event, and then it has a market that ideally you'll be betting on, and then it tells you the side of the line to bet on. And if you come here, you can see the probability of the bet, as well as other numbers like no vig. No vig is basically when they take out what I would consider like the tax of the book, the tax the sport book is making, where, if we can open this up for a second, you look at FanDuel, the line for the over for Mississippi State is -120 and the under is -106. The no vig is basically the tax taken out of that, and that's the number you'll see. Over here you have the bet size for your bet, which is basically telling you if you were to say I have this much of a bankroll, which I have in my settings. I told them what my bankroll was. It says, okay, based on your bankroll and based on how good the bet is, this is how much you should bet on it. And I find that helpful because sometimes I don't know where exactly to put my number at. So this kind of gives me some guidance, even if I don't follow this exactly. So in the last column I use is the width column, which basically tells me how much difference there is between one side of the line and the other side of the line. And just a general rule of thumb is the lower the width of a line, the more confident that the books are on it. So I tend to prioritize betting on lines that have low widths because that means the books are very confident. The good books are very confident in it, and it's more likely you can find and hit on your positive EV bets that you find. Looking at Mississippi State, let's move on to another one. Looking at the Chicago Blackhawks versus Utah Hockey Club. I don't personally know anything about hockey, so I'm not even going to touch on it. But right here is telling me to bet on Barrett Hayden. And why is it telling me to bet on Barrett Hayden? His over 2.5 shots on goal. Well, let's look at it. If you look here, every book, you have Bet MGM, Bet 365, Fliff, Bet ESPN, Bet Pinnacle, Hard Rock lines are all well under FanDuel's, but FanDuel is sitting here at plus 150 and it's saying, hey, this is the one that's sticking out, so you should come bet here. And I'm going to touch on later exactly, the pros and cons of using this and exactly how you have to read this information. But this is essentially telling me that Barrett Hayden would be a good bet to bet on. From there, you could simply go to FanDuel, find the Blackhawks, and then go find his prop. And boom, there you go right there. And you can bet any amount of money. In this case, it's telling me to bet $80 on it. So yeah, that's essentially how I use the OddsJam tool to make my bets. Let me touch on some of the results that this has brought me, and then I'll touch on the pros and cons of using this software to kind of give you some awareness on, if you were to use this software, what you'll be getting into. All right, so looking at my no BS results for using OddsJam and my results for sports betting. So looking at my results for 2024, as you can see, up with a lot of things, and down with some things as well. So you can see NBA at the top that's the largest quantity of bets that I make. And that's simply because with the NBA, it's always something to bet on when NBA season is here. It's teams playing every day. And there's always lines moving because people are coming in and out of, the lineups and being declared out and, not playing or whatnot. So lines consistently change, versus like NHL or football that doesn't have games every day. And you may say MLB does have games every day too, but MLB is kind of fixed. Like somebody being out of the lineup doesn't significantly change anything versus if LeBron didn't play that day. So yeah, that's why the largest quantity of bets are with the NBA. With MLB, I am down. I haven't quite figured out exactly why. But I'll touch on that, in my pros and cons of OddsJam. College basketball, it looks like I'm down here, but also when you look at 2023, I was up significantly with college basketball. So I mean, it's a give and take there, and variance does play a factor, but that's not completely all down. You can see across all the soccer leagues, I'm consistently in the positives amongst most of them, with a couple here and there where I am down on, but in the large grand scheme of things, I am significantly up with soccer betting. When you see other or mixed, that's typically when you make parlays or bet slips that's comprised of a lot of different sports. And as you can see, when I do that, I am up significantly, as it's my highest grossing category. So definitely those parlays, those mixed bets that come from like the underdogs of the world and the Prizepicks of the world do benefit you greatly making those slips. And yeah, looking at my results from 2023, which I only started betting and using OddsJam about in August of 2023, you can see that, like I said, I was up greatly with college basketball. I was up with the NBA. I was up with other sports, but I was down with NFL, and that's contrast to me being significantly up with NFL in 2024. So there's give and take. And you look at smaller categories that I bet on, like the WNBA, soccer, tennis, and whatnot. I was up on that as well. For some reason, with only like 7 bets, I was up big time at Formula One. So goes to show you can bet on anything. So this is a very important page to look at. This is the breakdown of the sports books that I bet on. And as you can see, I've overwhelmingly bet on FanDuel more than anything because they're always pushing out positive EV lines on, FanDuel. But as you can see, I'm consistently down on FanDuel as well. So, going to the pros and cons in this case of OddsJam. But when you look at everything else, whether that's DraftKings, Fliff, Betfred, ESPN Bet, Underdog Fantasy, going to 2023, Bet MGM, DraftKings, Bet Rivers, I'm consistently up on. I'm also down as well on Caesars. So I do have to mention that I make my own personal betting on FanDuel where I set my own lines and I pick my own bets up there, and that feeds somewhat into why it's down, as well as, over the course of learning how to sports bet, I take a lot of different strategies, whether it's stuff I see on Reddit and whatnot, and I try and apply them, and I use FanDuel as my tester for it, and I'm significantly in the negative trying to do that. So maybe I should not be doing my own thing when I'm betting. So looking at bet types, as you can see, making straight bets. If you learn anything about sports betting, you know that straight bets are the way to go. They are, the smartest better tool that you can use, just making sure that you're betting on one thing at a time, and that'll get you your consistent returns versus making a 6-bet, 10-bet, 15-bet slip and being like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire after I hit this. No, just bet on one thing at a time. And in 2024 and 2023, that has benefited me to the tune of about $10,000 almost. And then also parlays have worked out as well. In this case, the parlays that I hit are mainly on bonuses that I use where it told me to, hey, risk-free parlay, and on Underdog where you basically make a bet slip and then you could have a massive payout if it was to hit. That comprises mostly of parlays. And as you can see, I'm also down on round robins in both 2024 and 2023. And that's because that's kind of me doing my own thing again. I got into a little no home run round robin type betting strategy, and I hit one time for a couple $1,000. Then I kept betting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds every day doing that, and I eventually lost all my profit and lost, more than I made in the long run. And that shows why round robins are so low. Touching quickly on market types, as you can see for 2024, player props and derivatives were the most profitable bets for me by far. Player props is basically like, hey, LeBron's going to make 25 points. He's going to get 10 rebounds or something. Or Patrick Mahomes is going to throw for 300 yards. That's basically what that is. Derivatives is essentially like offsets from the main line. So if it's like the spread is -3, derivatives is like betting it's gonna be -4 essentially, and that's where I made profit there. I was down on totals and money lines surprisingly in 2024 so far, as you think money lines would be something that you're consistently up on because it's one or the other. But then you go to 2023 and it was the exact opposite. Essentially, I was up with totals and money lines, but down with player props. So that goes to show there's variance. And touching quickly on one last category, Pickett also lets you sort by teams and whatnot. So it'll show you the most commonly bet on teams that you make and commonly bet on prominent players that you make, and it'll show you what's your return with those. And as you could guess, I am an Eagles fan and I make significant amount of bets on them, and I'm significantly down betting on them. So being all honest here, your own bets will lose you money in the long run. So yeah, those are my results with OddsJam so far. But that's also a little bit of combination of me betting and using other betting strategies as well as using other betting software. But 90% of it comes from OddsJam. So yeah, talking just pros and cons briefly about OddsJam. I would say the number one pro of OddsJam is that it works. I mean, it honestly does work. Like before I started using OddsJam, I was losing money sports betting, but now using OddsJam, I'm up, and I'm up greatly. I'm making thousands and thousands of dollars, using this software. So, and you may see people out there saying it's a scam, and I will honestly guarantee you it's not a scam, but I will tell you that you can use it wrong and you can lose money using it if you do not know how to use it the correct way. That goes to my first con. you have to be mathematically inclined to be able to use this thing properly. When you look at sometimes when you look at it, some of the odds and some of the bets that they're recommending doesn't make complete sense. It'll be something as simple as, hey, bet here at FanDuel because it's way more profit on making this bet versus another one. But then when you learn about how the no vig applies to it, you'll be like, well, I feel like even if I bet on that, I will still lose money in the long run. So that's a bad bet. Why are you recommending that to me? So sometimes they could, in my opinion, have bets up there that are bad bets, and you have to watch out for that. Another pro for OddsJam is that it has a lot of books. Like, I literally just last week was up there and I realized that Better is a sports book in Virginia and I wasn't using it. So I was like, hey, oh snap, let me sign up for Better. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't using OddsJam. Now I get to make even more profit using Better. Another con, however, is as you saw my results, I'm down on FanDuel and Caesars. And I think, if I can be honest, I think OddsJam underestimates these two books where they're a lot sharper than what they're making them out to be, where Pinnacle may be their book of choice as what they're choosing to be the sharp book, but FanDuel and Caesars is whooping people butt out here and they're taking people money. And I think they're underestimating how smart and sharp FanDuel and Caesars are. And when I'm making bets with FanDuel and Caesars, I'm losing money in the long run. And I'm not as down as my results show because a lot of that betting is me, but I am down on FanDuel and Caesar. So that may be something to keep an eye out for, or just avoid in general. If you decide to do this, is to avoid FanDuel and Caesars and use these other books. And it's a lot out there. So you could definitely do this and just avoid FanDuel and Caesars entirely, unless you want to try your hand, and you may do it better than me. So just be aware of that. Another pro of OddsJam is it has several different betting tools. Like, I'm using positive EV mainly, but it's people out here making tens of $1,000s a month using arbitrage betting, and you could use middle betting, as well as it has like parlay makers up there. It has just a sportsbook screen if you want to go through and find your own bets and make them yourself. It has a lot of tools for you to be able to make bets your way. So I think that's a really, really dope feature, even though I don't touch on all those. A con, however, is I think betting on baseball in regards to OddsJam at least is not profitable. I only for a season at this point, but I've bet on MLB using several different strategies, avoiding several bets, focusing on different ones here and there. And I haven't been able to be profitable in the long run on baseball. So I would say avoid them if you're going to use OddsJam. But like I said, with Caesars and FanDuel, you can try your own hand at it and see if your results are any different. But I would say for now, for me, a con to OddsJam is baseball betting, or in this case, MLB particular betting. So my last pro for OddsJam is it's easy to use, honestly. I've used, like I said, Odd Shopper, but I've also used a lot of Discord type betting software where they'll recommend bets. And I've used complex softwares where it'd be like, hey, put in this and you'll see the discrepancies and whatnot. And it would just be too complicated. I feel like OddsJam makes it very simple for you to be able to consistently make good bets. And it's not necessarily time consuming or thought provoking exercises to be able to make these bets. And the last downside, which is minor because you do have things like Pickett, but I would say a downside is their bet tracker. I think it becomes very tedious to keep up with bets using their bet tracker. And even when I use their feature that will automatically sync bets like Pickett would do, it completely messed up my betting in general. And I had to move on from it and go to Pickett because, like, for Underdog, I'm up $8,000 on Underdog, but it has me down $5,000. And I'm like, what? So yeah, avoid their bet tracker at all costs. Just take my word for it. So yeah, that's all I have. I hope you took something away from this. If you're interested in signing up for OddsJam or interested in learning more about sports betting, I hope you learned something. And if you want to sign up for OddsJam, refer to my link in the description below and get a free trial to sign up for it. If you do, please let me know your experiences with OddsJam so that I could, you know, possibly learn something, because at this point I've only been using OddsJam for a little over a year now, so it's always something I feel as though I can pick up from it. Also, I'm going to do a Q&A, so comment down below any questions you have in regards to anything I said, and I'm going to make a completely separate video kind of breaking down and answering all your questions in detail if you have any questions, because I know I did not touch on everything in this video. So yeah. So good luck to everybody out there trying to make a little change on the side, a little money, a little side hustle money. It's going to work out, man. So keep pushing, keep figuring it out, and we're going to get it to it together. So yeah, let's get it.